What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, checking out the new Nexus 6P, which is joined by the LG-produced Nexus 5X. So the Nexus 6P is produced by Huawei and is the premium Nexus model for 2015 with an all-aluminum body, a larger 5.7-inch Quad HD AMOLED display, and more impressive internal specs. Now, I can pick one of these up unlocked for $499 with 32 gigs of storage, which is not expandable. But you can pick up a 64 gig version for $549 or a 128 gig version for $649, which is what I went with here. We also have three colors to pick from. We have raw aluminum, which is what I went with. You can go for the painted stealthy graphite look if you want, or you can go with the frost white. So getting to the box, first thing I need to do here is peel off the wrapper surrounding the cardboard box. Once I do that, you can see the Nexus P embossed in the top of the lid. Now, if I pop off the lid and flip it over, you'll find the Nexus branding on the inside. So the first thing we'll see here is this little information card. So if we pick this up and flip it over, we have some brief instructions on how to charge it, what the buttons do, what the ports do, etc. And again, just like the Nexus 5X, there's no written instructions here, it's only visual. So there we go, we have our neatly packaged phone and its accessories right on top. So let's go ahead and grab the phone, and the first thing you notice right away is just how much heavier this phone is compared to the very lightweight 5X. You also feel that nice, solid, cool feeling of the aluminum. Definitely feels like a very premium phone and a pretty big departure for Nexus devices. So we have some paperwork which includes a 90-day promotion for Google Play Music. Inside the packet we'll find a SIM ejection tool so we can eject the SIM tray to install our nano SIM, and inside that we'll find our warranty, safety, and regulatory information. So first up we have our very glossy wall adapter, which is designed by Huawei and is a rapid charger, so this quickly charges the internal battery of the Nexus 6P using a USB Type-C connector, which you'll find at the other end. Of course, you will need a USB Type-C cable, which also comes included, so it's USB Type-C to USB Type-C, just like the Nexus 5X. But unlike the Nexus 5X, you do get an adapter included, so you have a USB Type-A to USB Type-C adapter if you need it. So first up, let's go ahead and boot up the Nexus 6P for the first time to get it set up. Now, part of the setup process prompts you to program the Nexus Imprint fingerprint sensor, which is really quick. And of course, since the fingerprint sensor is along the back, you probably just want to program your index fingers, and you can program as many fingers as you need to, and it's a really quick process. So once that's all set up, we can take a close look around. So once again, we have a very large 5.7-inch Quad HD AMOLED display, 1440 by 2560, good for 518 pixels per inch. That's a really stunning and clear display with those deep inky blacks of an AMOLED display and those bright vivid colors. It's covered in Corning Gorilla Glass 4, which is kind of the newest generation of ultra thin and tough glass coverings. And along the top, you'll find an 8 megapixel front-facing camera, good for 1080p HD video. You also find your earpiece and an LED notification light in addition to all of your sensors. Toward the bottom, you won't find much, but you will find a front-facing speaker, which joins the earpiece up top for full stereo front-facing speakers. So along the right side, you'll find your sleep-wake power button. Just below that, you'll find your volume rocker. Again, really nice looking design here with those metal chamfered edges and the textured surface on the power button. Now, I do find that this power button is a little too easy to trigger accidentally, so it'd be nice if there was a little more stiffness here to that power button, but again, it's really easy to find and feel for. Along the left side, high up on the left side, you'll find your nano SIM tray. Toward the top, you'll find a headphone jack, and you'll also see those antenna insulators at each corner. Toward the bottom, we'll find our USB Type-C connector, which is basically the same width as the edge of the phone. You can also see we have more insulators here for the antennas. So taking a look at the back, again, a very distinctive design here, all metal, and toward the center you'll find the Nexus Imprint fingerprint sensor, which has this nice chamfered metal edge. It looks really nice. Toward the top, you have what's commonly known as the visor. This is a glass trim piece which provides some radio transparency for the metal body, but also houses a lot of sensors, including the camera module, the dual LED flash, and the laser autofocusing mechanism. And of course, below that, etched into the metal, you'll find a microphone. The main camera here is very similar to the one on the Nexus 5X, 12 megapixels with laser autofocusing and 4K video recording. Now toward the bottom, you'll find this plastic trim which matches the metal, but again, this allows for radio transparency for the antennas to work through the metal chassis. The 6P is also packing a pretty large battery. It's about 3,450 milliamp hours versus the 2,700 milliamp hours in the smaller Nexus 5X. So in terms of benchmarking, that means the Nexus 6P delivers about an hour more in terms of battery life at almost 6 hours, which is pretty decent for a screen set to maximum brightness. Now in terms of our specs, the 6P is a flagship phone for 2015 with pretty classic flagship specs, including a Snapdragon 810 octa-core processor, an Adreno 430 GPU, and 3 gigs of RAM. There are some notable differences between the 5X and 6P beyond the pricing. We have a smaller display, 5.2 inches versus 5.7 inches, 1080p versus Quad HD, and LCD versus AMOLED. We also have Corning Gorilla Glass 3 versus Corning Gorilla Glass 4, a mono front-facing speaker versus a set of stereo front-facing speakers. On the right side, we'll find all of our buttons in roughly the same location, and on the bottom, we'll find a USB Type-C connector for both, but the headphone jack is on the top of the 6P versus the bottom on the 5X. On the back, we'll find a very different design, metal versus plastic, but we have the same camera system, 12 megapixels, with a laser autofocusing mechanism. We also get the same Nexus imprint sensors on the back, which means this can be used for Android Pay or just unlocking the device, and it happens very quickly on both phones, basically the same speed. And the great thing about the Nexus imprint sensor is that you can wake it up and unlock it just by tapping your finger once. So in terms of our Geekbench scores, we see 1354 on the single core score and 4606 on the multi-core score. Compared to the Nexus 5X, that's a pretty modest gain on the single core score, but a pretty significant gain over the hexa-core multi-core score of the 5X. Of course, the 5X is also limited to 2 gigs of RAM instead of 3 gigs of RAM. The combination of a high-end processor, stock Android, and 3 gigs of RAM with an Adreno 430 GPU means this is a really smooth, fast operating phone. Gaming performance on this phone is also really impressive here, again with that 430 GPU. So there's no hiccups or stalling or frame dropping. Everything is really smooth and details are crisp and clear on this large QHD display. Android 6.0 on the 6P and 5X delivers the same software experience and features for both. On the lock screen, you'll find a quick shortcut to Google Now in addition to the camera app. You can also quickly launch the camera app by double tapping the lock button. This works anywhere in the system, whether the phone is locked or not. The biggest visual change is the new app drawer, which alphabetizes apps and allows you to grab a slider on the right to quickly jump to the app you want. At the top, you also find a section for recently accessed or frequented apps, which is very helpful. Another big new feature is Google Now on Tap, which you can access by tapping and holding the home button. This allows Google to search your current screen for helpful actions. For example, viewing a conversation with mentions of an event, movie, or restaurant will allow you to add an appointment to your calendar, look up movie times, or search for reviews and directions to the restaurant. This works no matter what you're looking at, from a website in Chrome to any app. There are many other smaller tweaks and new features which I cover extensively in my full Android 6.0 software tour, which I'll leave linked in the description below. The camera app has also been revised with an updated interface. You can still tap to focus and pinch in and out to zoom with a new animation. To switch between the camera and the video camera, you just swipe across the screen to change modes. The camera app also includes photosphere, panorama, and lens blur, which artificially reproduces a shallow depth of field. Under settings, we'll find our resolution settings for both cameras, which includes 4K ultra high definition for the main camera and 1080p for the rear-facing camera. We also have burst settings on the 6P, which is absent on the 5X, which does not get a burst mode for the still camera. We also get some quick toggles for the timer, HDR, and flash. In terms of camera quality, with 12 megapixels to play with, images in daylight conditions come out crisp and clear with a lot of resolution to work with. Color reproduction is accurate, and exposure compensation is usually accurate with a tendency to overexpose to light up the shadows. The camera's AF tends to be a little slow even with laser autofocusing, but it's able to find focus accurately in most conditions. Low light performance seems to be better than the 5X with more detail and less noise and better color reproduction. This is the benefit of having a more powerful image processor on board. The LED flash, however, is a little harsh without a dual tone LED to adjust the white balance. 4K video does look crisp and clear, and the camera is able to find focus quickly and relatively smoothly thanks to the laser AF system. However, there is no optical image stabilization, so handheld 4K video does look pretty shaky. I did run into some performance issues while recording 4K on the 6P. Now, if you recall from my 5X review, 4K video suffered significant performance constraints after a few minutes. The 6P has seen similar issues, but not as severe. But it did experience some frame dropping after a few minutes of recording, which shouldn't be an issue on a phone with this much power behind it. Hopefully, software updates will continue to improve this situation. The Nexus 6P is certainly the best Nexus phone to date, with a great design, display, and solid camera system. But unlike the Nexus 5X, the 6P represents an undeniable value for a phone in this class. It would be nice if we had wireless charging or optical image stabilization, but at $499, it's the no-compromise Nexus bargain we didn't get last year, and definitely worth the price jump over the 5X. But please, don't try to bend it. Alright guys, so that's going to do for me in this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up to let me know, and I'll see you again in the next one.